Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaimudirayet. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Om Jnanathimirantasya Gnananjana Shalakaya. चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, verse 64. Ameva toshayamasa pitryenarthena yavata gramir manoramai kamaihi prasideta yata tatha. Thus Ajamila began spending whatever money he had inherited from his father to satisfy the prostitute with various material presentations so that she could remain pleased with him. He gave up all his Brahminical activities to satisfy the prostitute. So, so yesterday we discussed that Ajamila saw this Shudra and prostitute embracing themselves, and he saw her. He saw her, and then the lusty feelings in his heart got awakened. And we were talking about how dhyayato vishan pumsan, how when we focus our minds on something material, we get caught up. And the trigger here was that he saw that prostitute eye to eye. So he got caught up then. He brought her home, and then of course then parents died because of this uh, mm, feeling bad about his actions. Wife leaves him and goes to her father's house, and then Ajamila is left to enjoy himself with the prostitute. And what does he do? He just spends all the money he had inherited from his father to satisfy the prostitute, and he gave up all his Brahminical activities. And we read yesterday that he was actually a very perfect Brahmana. He had lived a very controlled life, full control of senses, mind and senses, etc. Right? But just because he gave one chance to his mind. So one thing we have to always note: don't give your mind a chance to do anything which is not as per Krishna's desire, as per Shastra, as per Dharma. Mm. So don't give your mind even one chance. It's very important. Ajamila just gave himself one chance and his whole life was spoiled. But he was fortunate because he was pious Brahmana, he was son of a devotee, he was associated with devotees, possibly served them in his childhood. So that comes to his rescue, which as we will hear as we go forward. There are many instances throughout the world in which even a purified person being attracted by a prostitute spends all the money he has inherited. Prostitute hunting is so abominable that the desire for sex with a prostitute can ruin one's character, destroy one's exalted position, and plunder all one's money. Therefore, illicit sex is strictly prohibited. Of course, I mean, when we read these things today in India, we might still feel that, oh, okay, it's a bit too much, you know. But we should understand Prabhupada is writing for 10,000 years of Kali Yuga, and this situation will come in India also very soon. It's already there. For example, you know, there's a concept called as live-in relationship. All craziness, right? Wherein, just like in US, people don't want to get committed into marriage. So they just live together, low class. And this is also coming already there in India. Mm. But yeah, it will become more prevalent as Kali Yuga progresses. We shouldn't be very surprised about it. Mm. So, yeah, so At some point of time in future, hopefully somebody will read this and understand, saying that okay, these things are not good. One should be satisfied with his married wife, or even a slight deviation will create havoc. A Krishna conscious Grihastha should always remember this. He should always be satisfied with one wife and be peaceful by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So, while Shastra allows for multiple wives, but Prabhupada is saying for Krishna conscious people, all this is not required. You just be satisfied with one wife and be peaceful in chanting Hare Krishna. And this is true not just, of course, here specifically Prabhupada is talking about, specifically with respect to relationship with husband, between husband and wife, but this is true uh, with respect to all our material desires, that we should simply be satisfied with whatever we have and focus on chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Otherwise, at any point, he may fall down from his good position, as exemplified in the case of Ajamila. So again, please remember this one mantra. Don't give your mind a chance, even a single chance. Don't give your mind a single chance to deviate. So that's very, very critical. Vipram swabharyam aprauಢाम् कुले महति लम्भिताम् विससर्जाचिरात् पापः स्वैरिण्यापाङ्गविदधीः. Because his intelligence was pierced by the lustful glance, see, pierced by the lustful glance of the prostitute. That means that the prostitute saw him. And so, by the lustful glance of the prostitute, his intelligence was pierced, meaning he just lost his intelligence. The victimized, so he became a victim. The Brahmana Ajamila became victim. Victimized Brahmana Ajamila engaged in sinful acts in her association. He even gave up the company of his very beautiful young wife, who came from a very respectful Brahmana family, respectable Brahmana family. Sometimes he is, reading all this, we might feel, no, 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 why should these things be discussed? Because it is required for people to be aware of these things. Right? Nowadays, it's the world of free association, freely, you know, male and females mixed together. And that's not at all safe. That's not safe. And one such, glance, and of course, we don't know what kind of people we associate with. Somebody might be lustful, and that is seen in their eyes. And if by chance somebody pious like Ajamila comes in contact with this kind of a person, then whole life is spoiled. So it is required, and it is absolutely required for especially teenagers, right? People in those ages where they have high propensity of falling, prey. That they have to be very careful when they're associating with the opposite gender. Only as much as is required. If not required, very happy. Don't have to feel bad. But of course, nowadays teenagers they feel bad about all these things, so they have to be taught. And hence, Krishna consciousness is required for all age groups. He even gave the company of his very beautiful young wife. So it's not that she was some ugly looking girl or very beautiful young wife, but his lust was so overpowering that her beauty, internal and external beauty, right? Because internal beauty, because she came from a very respectable Brahmana family and she was also externally beautiful, but nothing helped. Nothing could prevent him from engaging in a sinful act. So powerful, his lust. Customarily, everyone is eligible to inherit his father's property, and Ajamila also inherited the money of his father. But what did he do with the money? Instead of engaging the money in the service of Krishna, he engaged it in the service of a prostitute. Therefore, he was condemned and was punishable by Yamaraj. How did this happen? He was victimized by the dangerous, lustful glance of a prostitute. Mm. चोपनिन्ये न्यायतो धनं बभारास्याः कुटुम्बिन्याः कुटुम्बं mandadhirayam. Although born of a Brahmana family, this rascal, bereft, rascal is Muda. bereft of intelligence because of the prostitutes association, earned money somehow or other, regardless of whether properly or improperly, and used it to maintain the prostitute's sons and daughters. That means he even had children from her. Her earned money somehow or other, regardless of whether properly or improperly. And this is so important in Kali Yuga. Unfortunately, people are not really so concerned about how they're earning money, as long as they earn money. Of course, they might not be using it for satisfying some prostitute, but if they're earning in improper ways to even maintain their own family, it is sinful. Mm. Narada Muni meets this hunter who was actually half killing animals because that's what his father had taught him. So he didn't know that it was wrong. And Narada Muni comes and tells this hunter, saying that, see, you're living life, you're doing this, it's very sinful. Do one thing. Whom are you doing this for? He says, I'm doing this for my family. Okay, so go and ask your family. So it's sinful, you're going to get punished. Ask your family if they're going to partake, if they're going to take, take part of the sins. And then he goes to his house and everybody refuses. Wife refuses, children refuse, everybody refuses, saying that it's your duty, you do. Who's asking you to earn illegally, improperly? You go and earn properly if you want. So then the hunter comes to his senses and then he follows the path of Narada Muni and becomes a devotee. Huh? So we cannot give an excuse saying that, oh, my family is dependent on me, so I'm earning improperly. But family is not going to partake of your of the karma phala. That only you have to suffer because you are the one who is taking a decision how to work. So it's very, very important that we don't. At least it should not be grossly sinful. First, first guidance about our karma. It should not be grossly sinful, meaning it should not be catering to the four pillars of sinful life, right? Intoxication, meat eating, gambling, illicit sex. So at least it should not be on these platforms. And second, it should not be cheating somebody, and it should not be a cause of any kind of misery for any person, right? We should be aware. For example, many times people engage in software and they get paid handsomely, but they don't know where their software is being used. So it is important to be at least little bit. Of course, we can't completely um, stop this or make sure that our work is not being used in any sinful manner, but it should not be evidently wrong. So here, yeah, properly or improperly. यदसौ शास्त्रम् उल्लङ्घ्य स्वैरचार्यति गर्हितः अवर्तत चिरं कालम् अघायुराशुचिर्मलात्. This Brahmana irresponsibly spent his long lifetime Shastram Ullangya, transgressing all the rules and regulations of the Holy Scripture, mm, living extravagantly, but eating food prepared by a prostitute. Ashuchi, Malat, unclean. Agha Ayuhu, life was full of sinful activities. Therefore, he is full of sins. He is unclean and is addicted to forbidden activities. So, Shastram Ullangya, Ati Garhitaha, very condemned life. Svairachari, acting very irresponsibly. Very irresponsible, condemned life for a long time. Full of life was full of sinful activities. It was unclean because of impurity. And of course, Prabhupada specifically is writing here that he ate the food prepared by a prostitute. Food prepared by an unclean, sinful man or woman, especially a prostitute, is extremely infectious. So we should understand that we should just stop eating food from outside because it is prepared by unclean, sinful people. Everybody in this world is a sinful person, unless he's a devotee of Krishna. Everybody is sinful, right? So we should not eat food prepared by an unclean, and they're unclean. Most of them don't even take bath or they don't even have any sense of cleanliness. And those people who cook in the restaurants, poor thing. I mean, what can we tell? And they're also, the owners kind of, yeah, they're just put into a very difficult situation, very paid very less. Nobody cares for them. So they have difficulty as well in living their life, but we can't blame them, but we don't have to eat whatever they've cooked because they're unclean, sinful. Because it'll infect us, not affect us. Prabhupada is using the word infectious. Ajamila ate such food and therefore he was subject to be punished by Yamaraja. This itself was such a great sin, Prabhupada is saying, that he was subject to be punished by Yamaraja. Every sin is punishable. Some are punishable within this, just, maybe one comes back to this material world and gets punished. And some are very, very bad karma, for which he has to be punished in Yamaloka. So one such example here, very strong example, is eating food prepared by such people. Mm. So we have to be very, very careful. Our consciousness very easily gets affected by what kind of food we eat. Even that is why even mothers in the house who are cooking, they should try to cook with top utmost care and purity, both externally and internally. With desire to just cook nicely for the pleasure of Krishna. Ajamila ate such food and they were subjected to be punished. तत एनं दण्डपाणेः सकाशं कृतकिल्बिषं नेष्यामोकृतनिर्वेशं यत्र दण्डेन शुध्यति. This man Ajamila did not undergo atonement. Nirvesham, akrita nirvesham. He did not undergo atonement because he done. Previously, people were used to, doing atonement for sinful activities. At the end of their life, they normally engage in atonement. But Ajamila did not undergo atonement. Therefore, because of his sinful life, we must take him into the presence of Yamaraja for punishment. So this is all the Yamadutas are giving reasons why Ajamila is wrong and he should be punished. So saying if he had undergone atonement, at least he would have been forgiven. But he's not done anything and he lived for fully sinful life. So we must take him in the presence of Yamaraja for punishment. Therefore, there, according to the extent of his sinful acts, he will be punished and thus purified. Again, please understand this. The reason for our punishment is purification. Any punishment we get in life is for our purification. All that we have to figure out is what do we have to get purified from? That means there's some impurity in us, and the punishment or suffering is coming so that we can purify us from that impurity. So instead of standing in front of Krishna and asking, why Krishna are you punishing me? We will be more benefited by thinking about what is that anartha in me that I have to remove. How can I get benefited by this punishment? Because it's a punishment. So as soon as we suffer, we have to remember it's a punishment. First question that has to come to our mind is, why am I being punished? What have I done wrong? Of course, it's not in this life, but in previous life. So then how do we know what we have done wrong? Anybody can say? Can anybody say? So my question is, I'm saying when we are suffering, that means it's punishment. Punishment for some bad deed, wrong deed. But how do I know what is that reason and how do I prevent myself, stop myself from doing that?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
By forgetting Krishna and by disconnecting ourselves from Krishna and behaving independently.
Okay, that's a uber reason, but I'm talking about very specifics.
I didn't understand the
Specifics.
question, Prabhu.
So see, when we are getting, when we have some suffering, we are getting punished. We are being punished, right? For what are we being punished? How can I make sure that I,
For our
in a,
karmas, Prabhu.
what exactly I'm asking? What is it that I need to learn? See,
Hare
okay,
Krishna,
let me
Prabhu.
put it. Yeah, one second, Nagendra Prabhu. So let me explain in another way. For example, if a child has done something wrong and parents punish the child, and there is clear understanding of what the punishment is for, right? Because you have done this, see, like this, right? So it's easy for children to understand that, oh, okay, because I did this mistake, I'm being punished. Now, how do we understand what are we being punished for? Yeah, Nagendra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Basically, we need to follow the scriptures and we need to follow the Shastras. And if we live according to it, then we would understand whether we are leading a sinful life or we are living a pious life. So
Okay.
based on that, we can understand, and we should be living accordingly.
Okay. 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 Kameshwari Mataji.
Yeah, I feel first the basic step is we should inquire why we are suffering, and from that inquiry, then it follows like how we can get to the shelter of a guru and find out why we are suffering from the
Okay.
scriptures.
Okay. So, okay, fine. So, one thing that, of course, there isn't any foolproof way of saying that this punishment is for this exact wrongdoing that we have done in the past. But in general, what we can see is that, especially for devotees, I'm saying this, giving this answer for devotees. For devotees, Paramatma will somewhat bubble up our biggest anarthas in front of us in a situation, right? Bubble up meaning, so we have so many anarthas. What are the anarthas in our heart? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, right? Now, uh, the way we've lived life in our past, right, will reflect in in our anarthas in the current life. Meaning, if suppose say we've lived a very life of anger in the previous life, in this life also we'll have anger. If in previous life we had lived a life of illusion, in this life also we'll be illusion, because this life is a continuation of the last life, right? So if we just introspect our internal state of affairs, we can at least see that whenever we are getting punished, we should see what is the most prominent anartha in me, at least, right? We might not be able to look at more than one at a time, but at least we should try to understand what is the biggest anartha in me, right? So it could be kama, it could be krodha, it could be lobha, it could be moha, it could be mada, it could be matsarya. And then we should understand that now it is time for me to try and cut down that anartha, because that anartha is what is making me to suffer. We should take the suffering as a impetus for purification. Instead of going the other way and asking Krishna, saying that Krishna, why do I have to go through all this suffering? I have served you so nicely. I'm such a nice person. Please understand, if you were such a nice person, we wouldn't have had to go through it. We are fortunate that in this life looks like we are good person, right? But good or bad should not be our own estimation. So what we should do, we should simply look inside ourselves and think in terms of, okay, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. What is it that is actually my biggest anartha? Let me take this opportunity, this punishment, as a way to purify myself of this anartha. And then we can refer to Bhagavatam, we can talk to devotees to try and understand, okay, how do I get over this anartha? What can I do? Right, and yeah, see, generally when we say like, okay, if you read scriptures, we'll understand everything. We shouldn't make it too broad-based also, because scriptures, so many scriptures are, there's no end to scriptures, right? So we should simply limit ourselves to Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada's purports, and we will get all the required clarity in life. Prabhupada is given actually, Prabhupada is written for all of us, for the contaminated souls of Kali Yuga. Actually, if you see Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or previous acharyas commentaries, you will not find the language is so different. The language is devotional, more or less. There is no explanation. Like there's no explanation of things like, I am not body, I am spirit, soul. There is no need for an explanation because people know about it. But Prabhupada has spent so much energy explaining basic things because we are completely not in touch with Vedic culture. So if we read Prabhupada's purports, it's absolutely bang on for us, right? Absolutely applicable to us. So all we have to do is simply read Prabhupada's books. And when we read Prabhupada's books, we have to note down things that are required for our personal application. Things like this, for example, right? So we have to get purified. He will be punished and thus purified. So now we should not think about this as only referring to Ajamila. He will be punished and thus purified. No, if I am punished, I also have to be purified. I will be purified. I'll be purified in two ways. By suffering, I'm actually reducing my total amount of suffering that I have to go through in this life. But that is not good enough, because there is like unlimited amount of suffering, right? Because of our prarabdha, etc. So the most important thing to understand is saying that what should I fix in myself? This is the most important actually lesson for devotees. We should not lament, and we should not go into the self-pity mode. All we have to do is be very objective, saying that okay, I am suffering, which means that I'm really done something wrong. What is it that I can fix in myself? What can I fix? Right? And then how do? I go through my anarthas and look at in my current life behavior which anarthas are prominent. If we are not able to understand which anarthas are prominent, then we can again discuss with some devotee with whom, you know, like Rupa Goswami says, right? So we should reveal our heart to one or two devotees, advanced devotees, not to everybody. We should not become a, topic for discussion amongst devotees. But one or two devotees we can discuss, open up our hearts, and help them understand what our current position is. And then they might be able to give us direction, saying that, okay, see, maybe this is what you should focus on at this point of time, based on their understanding of Shastra. And that's what we should actually work on to purify ourselves of that anartha. Mm. Mm. Sometimes, actually, there might even be indications of what kind of anarthas we are suffering for. For example, you suppose say we are suffering because of relations. We can understand that I've been the cause for some bad relations in the past. Of course, if we look at ourselves in the mirror today, we will think, I couldn't have done anything like this. But please understand that this is a different life. That is a different life. But no karma phala will come without us being responsible for it, right? So, in some sense, right? Not always, but what is more accurate is to look at what are our anarthas, which are, you know, which we have to purify, which we have to get rid of, and use suffering as an opportunity to purify. That's the point here. The Vishnu Dutas had forbidden the Yamudutas to take Ajamila to Yamaraja, and therefore the Yamudutas explained that taking such a man to Yamaraja was appropriate. So Yamadutas gave the explanation, because Vishnu Dutas asked, saying that what is dharma, what is adharma, who needs to be punished, should everyone be punished? So as an answer to those questions, Yamadutas actually explained all this, the whole history of Ajamila, and concluding saying that yeah, he had engaged in all kinds of sinful activities, so he had to be punished. This is only one side of the story. This is also very interesting, right? Um, Sometimes devotees are in faced with situations with other devotees, and uh, one person and yeah, so both people are not happy about their situation. Then one comes to say, somebody came to me and said, Prabhu, see, this person is like this. Uh, then you hear their side of the story, and they will say, see, I did this, but this person did this. So one side of the story you are hearing. Now sometimes leaders, so-called people in leadership positions, what they do is they get biased by hearing one view, and they just take it for granted, saying that, oh, whatever this person is saying must be 100% accurate, and so the other person needs to be chastised or corrected or whatever. No, that's not correct. We should always understand that one person will always come with their view. It is their view of the situation. Mm. Then we talk to the other person also and say, okay, you tell me your story. What do you think happened? Then they will tell their side story, and it looks like now the first person is at fault. Because both of them are coming from their own perspectives. So then it's important to understand where the bias is coming from, who is biased, what actually happened. So here, the Yamadutas are only seeing one side of the story, which is the sinful life of Ajamila. Now, they didn't even mention about something that he did, or they didn't even consider, because they didn't think it was important, which was his chanting of the holy names of Narayana. So one-sided decision, this is, right? Similarly, in life, we should not do one-sided decisions. Hmm. Yeah. So for my previous question, Nakul Prabhu says if you have cheated somebody, we get cheated. Okay, that's good. Achutpriya Mantaji, yeah, okay. Every anartha seems to be bigger than the other. Yes. So, but still, there'll be something which is the biggest. To pick the biggest. Since Ajamila had not undergone atonement for his sinful acts, he was to be taken to Yamaraja to be purified. When a man commits murder, he becomes sinful, and therefore he also must be killed. Otherwise, after death, he must suffer many sinful reactions. Actually, elsewhere, Prabhupada writes, especially for this sin of committing murder, if he is not killed by the laws of the government, he will have to get killed multiple times in future lives. So he will be born, somebody will kill him. He will get born, somebody will kill him. Like this, multiple lifetimes he has to get killed for killing, right? So, but when, as per Manu Samhita, if he is punished, given death sentence by the government or king, then he is saved from these future sufferings. Hmm. Similarly, punishment by Yamaraja is a process of purification for the most abominable sinful persons. Therefore, the Yamadutas request the Vishnu Dutas not to obstruct their taking Ajamila to Yamaraj. So Yamaraj is also one of the 12 Mahajanas. So he is only helping Jivas purify themselves because that is our whole aim. The reason why Jivas have come in this material world is because we are uh, we turned away from Krishna. So it's sinful life. And we have to purify ourselves and come back to our constitutional position of being servants of Krishna. But even while trying to be servants of Krishna, still some people want to become Ishvara, remain Ishvara. They want to be in control. They want to control other devotees. They want to, mm, yeah, like power. People are behind power. People are behind position. Mm, Even in small, amongst say 10 devotees, maybe one person wants to be the Ishvara, controller. So this is not. This is just our contamination. Of course, I mean we might have to be Ishwaras for taking care of service for Krishna, but that is with the mindset saying that I am the biggest servant, or I'm the biggest servant, meaning uh, I am the one who has to serve the most. Not the biggest servant is not something that of pride again, right? Biggest servant means I should do the maximum service. I should serve everybody else. Hmm? Not thinking, oh, I am so important that everybody else has to serve me. No, right? Yes, I have to serve everybody. That has to be our mood. And only then we can actually we will be able to take up some service, and you know that there will be some good outcome from that. But if we are just engaging other devotees and thinking, okay, now I come to this position that everybody has to listen to me, so I become so great, then it's a recipe for fall down. So we should not be this control freak. Some people are so much control freaks that nobody can work alongside them. Nobody can work with them because they want everything done only in a particular way. Okay, it's okay if it is for the if it is going to result in good service for Krishna, but there should also be some humanity. I mean, we also have to know how we should deal with other devotees, other human beings. In one of our centers, I heard this very recently, and I was very pained by hearing this. That some devotee, somebody new in our congregation, they wanted to come and do service, and somebody told them saying that don't come, and they wanted to do some fruit cutting service. So somebody said, don't come and get involved in some such internal services. Go and do external service. Go and wash pots. Very rude. Very rude, right? What is internal? I mean, yeah, of course, if you're doing cooking for deities, then yes, there are restrictions, only second initiated have to do, etc., etc. But otherwise, I mean, in all our preaching centers, our focus is not deity worship. Our focus is to give opportunity for more and more devotees to serve. So yeah, of course, everything has its own standards, etc. But it's not right for somebody to say, don't come and get involved in this kind of services. This is for internal, meaning we are all internal people. You are external. I mean, all this is again the same aham, mama, material contamination of this belongs to me, somebody belongs to somebody, something else, I am in control. So we have to be very, very careful, right? How we are, what, where. That is why I said, we have to analyze our anarthas. Unfortunately, devotees don't spend time analyzing anarthas. No, we should sit and analyze anarthas. You know, then you will know exactly where you are going wrong. Mm, mm. And if you are very thoughtfully reading Prabhupada's books, then you know your anarthas. You don't have to sit and do analysis. You know your anarthas. Uh, it'll be on top of your head. It'll be troubling you, saying that, okay, I need to get rid of these anarthas. But otherwise, if you are not used to doing mananam, if you are not the introspective types, then please invest time for your own benefit. Invest time to understand where your anarthas are. And generally, our problem is we always look at situations and look at anarthas in others. Oh, this person should not have done this like this. But do we think about, sit and do the same thing about ourselves? What are all the things that I'm doing wrong? What actions of mine are hurting others? We might not even have the vision to see it, unfortunately, because we are so self-centered, so inwardly focused, or self-centered is the right word. Yeah, we don't even know. We can't even see our mistakes. Mm. Please understand, punishment is to wake us up because we are so blindfolded. We are so self-centered. We are just, not bother to correct ourselves. So punishment comes and wakes us up, saying that okay, now find what all anarthas are there, and now focus on them. That's all. And Krishna is so merciful to devotees that as soon as we even sincerely try to attempt to fix our anarthas, Krishna will ease the situation. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Krishna is so merciful. He doesn't want devotees to get punished just like that. The important thing is the outcome, which is purification. And as soon as a devotee becomes serious about that purification, starts working towards it, Krishna is so merciful. He actually frees the soul from the punishment. Of course, again, if the devotee is doing it again he will bring it on. But please understand, it is under the complete control of Krishna. What punishment has to come in our life and what should not is completely in the hands of Krishna. So this is very important. Punishment is for purification. Please remember this, write this down somewhere, put it on a A4 size of paper, stick it in front of you, so that you don't go into this self-pity mode thinking about your life. If there are some struggles in your life, just remember it's for my purification. It'll help a lot. Yeah, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, so in this verse, um, the Yamudutas, they are saying that this person has not done atonement, so they disregarded the chanting of Ajamila in the earlier part of his life. So, what was the atonement which they were indicating? Like, which
No,
was
no, no. Actually, no. Like Prabhu asked the other day. See, it looks like out. They didn't even consider his chanting. Mm. It seemed like a wrong, as in they didn't have complete understanding of the situation, looks like, right? But of course, then we can question saying that how can there be mistakes like this? And I gave the example of how Mandavya Muni was also about to be killed, right, for some small mistake that he had done when he was 5 years old, when he had pricked the eyes of some insects without knowing, right, like this. So we don't know. It's a little bit bewildering, but we should understand that there must be some reason why Yamadutas could not see this or could not recognize the power of chanting. And maybe one way of looking at it is Bhagavatam is this incident is actually like Arjuna fell into illusion. I mean, how can Arjuna fall into illusion? So similarly, how can Yamadutas not be aware of this fact? But maybe they were put into this situation just so that this amazing, pastime of the importance of holy name will come to us. But yeah, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has also not mentioned why they kind of, they, yeah, they didn't consider that he was chanting Narayana's name.
Mm.
We will see another 2 chapters, so we'll see if we'll get any answers. That's what I told Prabhu also, because as far as I have read, none of the acharyas have mentioned anything about it, but yeah, we never know, we can see.
So the real atonement is basically chanting of holy name.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the universal atonement,
Hmm.
universal and the most powerful atonement is to chant the holy names of Krishna. But um, we don't emphasize too much on that, because then devotees will start chanting with the mindset to get
Yeah.
free from their sinful reactions, and then also then they will might also do sinful actions on the strength of the holy name, which will become a nama aparadh. So this is not so much emphasized amongst devotees, but we know that the power of the chanting of the name, right? So which is namabhasa. If somebody chants in namabhasa, they'll get liberated. That is the power. So liberation means getting rid of all sinful reactions, all that. So all that strength is there and power is there in the holy name. But we are not here for just getting liberated. That's what we were discussing, right? So we're not here for liberation. What is the goal of our life? Goal of our life is Krishna Prema, and Krishna Prema can only start when we are on the other side of liberation. Which means on one side is material world, then there is liberation. On the other side, there's Krishna Prema. So if we have not crossed from the material world onto the other side, we can't start the process of developing love of Krishna, which means that we should be free from attachment to this material world, to this body, to family, to this, to that, everything, right? Only then we can think of Krishna Prema. Hmm. Hmm. So since our goal is not liberation, we are not so concerned about the other effects or other powers that are there in the chanting of the holy name. We are most concerned about this power of chanting holy name, the power of the holy name to give us Krishna Prema. And that's what our concern, our focus needs to be.
Yeah. Okay, bro.
Okay. Anything else, anybody? Some devotees, I see Nagendra Prabhu is joined classes newly, Maheshwar Prabhu, Panikumari Mataji. So some of these things, thank you so much for joining. And some of these things we've been discussing in morning classes. So I might not, emphasize everything. So if there are any questions you might have, you can ask either in the class or you can ask me directly. But yeah, I keep repeating the same things because I only know few things, and it is those things that are important for us. So we'll keep repeating that, and hopefully you'll be able to connect the dots. Yeah, Rohini Mata.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
How do we understand the people who were killed by Ajamila? Because he's not getting the reaction of killing them, right? So did they kill
It's not
someone
mentioned
before?
that he killed anybody.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
said anywhere? No, I don't think we read that he killed. He cheated people.
Okay. He
He
robbed
looted
and
them.
he cheated.
Yeah, he
He
robbed
didn't
and
kill.
cheated them. He didn't kill anybody.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, even those sins that he committed will all go away, right? Because he chanted the holy names of Krishna.
Yes, yes. From his side, yes. But from their side, like who have been affected by him. So how do we
Yeah,
understand?
that's okay. I mean, that's the whole thing about bhakti, right? So whatever karma, I mean, even cheating for that matter. So if he's cheated somebody, he should have been cheated by them in the next life, but he is forgiven.
Right.
The same thing, whether he killed somebody, whether he cheated somebody, a devotee, if he does it, not, I mean, yeah, that's the power of holy name. All our sinful reactions are gone. And if we perfect our life and go back to Krishna, then there's no question of experiencing any reaction. Otherwise, those reactions might be there in our next life. But if we continue to remain in devotional service, Krishna will protect us. And if we have to lose 10,000 rupees, we will lose 1 rupee. Like that. Okay. Okay, and we'll close here if there are no more questions. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyo Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.